I'm here today with Jeremy Dewitte. You have the right to remain silent. Anything say can and will be
We use our air horns to facilitate the movement of the funeral. Huh?
Can you use sirens?
No, we use air horns.
You don't have any sirens.
The vehicles, of course, they have the sirens.
Do you ever use them?
I don't. We don't.
Okay.
I've never been on a funeral where someone of my team has.
Okay. Have you ever been on a funeral at all with any of your people, where you or any of your people have used a siren? Have you ever been on an escort, any type of charity escort, where either you or any of your people have ever used a siren?
And I've witnessed it? No. But I can't say that somebody's used a siren.
Okay.
I know I haven't, and I know that nobody's used it in my presence. Have we heard sirens on funeral escorts? Of course. Fire rescue, you guys, OPD. So,
and I gotta ask you, man, because you know I was military, right? Right, Jeremy? I just gotta ask this before.
Corporal.
Were you ever in the military?
Corporal, let me ask you a question.
Did you jump in Fallujah? Did you jump in Fallujah?
I've jumped a lot of places.
Okay. Did you jump in Fallujah?
Let me ask you a question, Corporal. Corporal.
I am listening.
The motor sergeant.
Yeah.
Yeah, we were clear from the beginning. I mean, he was a little concerned about the BB gun, but he let him loose.
Did you say it was less lethal? Did you stick to that story?
Yeah.
Thank you. You stuck to that story. That's the only way you got through. I'll get you a less lethal. I'll get you a pepper ball.
Yeah, this is a bullshit situation.
And Victor wants to make sure you're aware that he's also recording this on his phone.
Okay, that's fine.
All right. What we're here to interview Victor Lopez. It is November 14th. It is at 8:55 a.m. in the morning. And just so we can know who's in the interview with us, go ahead. Victor Lopez. All right. I'm Sergeant Keith Bittler. Deputy Mittiga, MITTIGA.
And Corporal John Ramsey, and I am doing this via phone.
Via phone, yes. Before we get started, Victor, I'm aware that you do have an attorney. Yes. And that you're here. Let me go back just a little bit. You called me the other night, and you and Stephen Negron called me the other night and said that you guys were interested in talking to us. Yeah. And I explained to you that you both have attorneys. You're more than welcome to call us. You're more than welcome to come in if you want to talk to us. But I can't initiate any phone calls or interviews. Is that correct? Yeah. And then you guys called me last night again and said that you wanted to meet today. Yes. Okay, so I just want to put that on the record that the sheriff's office didn't reach out to you two. You guys reached out to us. Yes, we did. Okay. And again, as I explained to you on the phone, I have filed charges against you. Okay. And before we go any further in this interview, I need to read you your rights. Yeah. Okay. So you understand your rights. Yes, and that. So I forgot my eyeglass. Can you read this to him? I need my eyeglasses. Okay. For the purposes of this interview, I'm required to advise you of your constitutional right. You have the right to remain silent. Anything you say will be used in court as evidence against you. You are entitled to talk to an attorney now, have him present now or any time during questioning. If you cannot afford an attorney, will it be provided for you without cost? You understand your rights? Yes, I do. Does anyone promise you or coerce you into speaking to us? No. Okay. Okay. So, what we're here is we're conducting an investigation on the company Metro State. It's actually, there's a LLC, and that Jeremy Dewitte is the owner. Yes. And it's my understanding that you're an employee for Jeremy Dewitte. Yes, I am. Okay, how long have you...
Hey, Keith?
Yeah.
Keith, before we continue, let's swear him in as well.
Okay.
I'll do that if you like. All right, Victor, can you hear me?
Go ahead.
Victor, can you hear me? Okay.
Yes.
So, do you swear and affirm that what you're about to tell us is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes, I do.
Okay. Is your right hand raised when you say that?
Oh, okay. No. Okay, now. Say it. Now do it.
All right. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes, I do.
Okay. Okay.
What I'm going to do is I'm going to just ask a couple questions, and then I'm going to let Corporal Ramsey, basically, he's one of the lead investigators, he and I. Yeah. And so, but anyways, I just want to establish that. How met him at Starbucks. He said, I would like to work with you. I'm a photographer. I started as a photographer maybe about 6 months, 7 months. Then he told me, would you like to be a driver? I said, okay, yeah, sure, I'll be a driver. And I didn't put no application out. I didn't put nothing since day one at all. And then ever since then, I've been driving cars and running escorts with him. Okay. Go ahead, John.
All right, Victor. What's your job title?
Well, he always told us, well, the driver at first, that's what I was first aware of, the driver. And then after when I asked him, if someone asks us in public, who are we? He goes, tell them we're a state-approved agency or we're a state-approved agent.
Okay, but what is your job title? Are you a manager? Are you a supervisor?
No, I'm just a regular officer. I don't have no ranks, no nothing like that. I'm just
Okay.
What is the organization of the company? In other words, like in the sheriff's office, you have the sheriff, the undersheriff, you have chief deputies, you have majors, you have captains. Is there a rank structure within Metro State? There is, but it's not very good. But Jeremy's the motor commander. Ken DeLine, he's the captain. Andrew Ross is the lieutenant. Alan Smith is the sergeant. Brandon Brocious is the sergeant or corporal, one of those two. Stephen Legrand, he was the first. He was corporal or staff sergeant. Back when he used to work with us, and he came back and he's just a sergeant somehow. But me, I was a PFC fire first class at one time, and then that's when I left the company for about 6 months, 7 months, and then he never trusted me again and put me as a regular officer.
Okay. When you say he didn't trust you, what do you mean?
Because when I used to work there, I took some lights out of him because, I would just take it and try to sell it. And I only took maybe 5 or 6 lights from him without his permission. And, he told me, he was like, I treated you like a son, you're a great guy, you're a great kid. I don't know why you did that from me. And he just told me, he's like, listen, you're fired. And then 6 months later, he contacted me back. He's like, I care for you a lot. You want your job back? And I was like, yeah, sure. And he hired me back.
Okay. And what are your duties? What do you do?
My duties, basically when I get there, most of the time I watch the cars, I detail the cars. Sometimes I do inventory for him. I post stuff on eBay for him also. I organize the office. I'm the one that basically set up the cameras. So mainly like an IT person. I went to school for computers, so I basically set up all the cameras, did everything for him. On escorts, basically, like I said, listen to him, do what he says to do, and really that's it.
Okay. So, hey, don't take this wrong, but I want to reiterate something to you, okay?
Uh-huh.
You're coming in here today because we're telling you we're willing to work with you, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. You have to be completely honest, because if I find that you're lying about anything or that you're skirting away from the truth on anything, then that deal's not going to be the same, okay?
Okay.
So you need to make sure when I ask questions, you're completely honest with me, and if you forget something and you remember it while we're talking, you come back to it. But you cannot lie to us, because if you do, that's not going to help you and it's not going to help us, okay?
Okay. Can you rephrase it a little bit?
Okay.
Better,
So what exactly do you do for Jeremy and his business? I know you said you wash cars, you sell stuff on eBay, you do IT stuff, like setting up the cameras. Do you maintain body camera footage? Do you?
Oh yes, that's also something I do. That I don't know, like that. Usually when at the end of the day for everybody, basically only the drivers, because they had a different person in charge of motors. Most of the time, I'll upload all the body camera footage into the computer, and whatever was say if the escort was just going and there was nothing being involved, he would want me to delete that. If there was an encounter with the sheriff's office or encounter with anyone, he'd want me to keep it on the computer because he said he needed it just to have it. Sometimes I would upload the motors cameras, and the same thing would be the same thing. I upload anything with an encounter or anything that he was running sirens or one of us was running sirens, and he would want that just to have it because it would look cool. But anything that was just regular, we would delete.
How often do you download the videos? Is it daily? Is it weekly? Is it monthly? Or just when he tells you?
I would say weekly, because sometimes, most times, like, if he's in a bad mood, he won't even tell me to do it. I'll just do it because that's what he told me my job was, to upload the cameras. He didn't know supposedly he didn't know how to do all that stuff. Most people just didn't know how to do it. So most people, they trusted me with it. And like I said, I put everything into his computer and uploaded everything onto the computer. And like I said, whatever wasn't really good, just delete it. So I would say weekly and maybe sometimes daily if the cameras were getting at a point where they were really backed up.
Okay. So, for example, the cameras in the cars that are on the mirrors or that are on the dash or whatever, how often would you download those?
The ones that are plugged on the windshield, those I upload. The ones that are plugged onto that are mounted, those they have a 24-hour reload. So if you leave the camera on 24 hours, everything that was before gets deleted. So most of the time when I upload those, which I rarely touch because always at nighttime they get re-looped, I don't usually touch those. But sometimes I do, and those I still upload to the computer. But the thing is, with those, I rarely touch those because they don't come out unless you yank it off or you turn it over at a tight corner and get something to pinch out the memory card. So sometimes when I do that, I forget which memory card was what. But the dash cams are attached to the windshield. I actually take those out and bring those inside with me and upload them.
Okay. And how often do you do those?
Same thing, daily or weekly. If there's no escorts at all, I won't upload. If there is escorts throughout the whole week, then I'll start, taking them out the car every day. If there's escorts throughout the whole week, and upload them into the computer so that on a brand new day, the whole memory card is wiped out. So
would you download just if you have one escort? Would you go out there and take the time to download everything if you know you just have one escort coming up?
Sometimes I would, sometimes I won't. It's rare. It all depends if my mood, if I really do want to work. Sometimes I'm at the office for 8 hours a day, 9 hours, sometimes 10 hours. Sometimes I'm only there for 2 hours. Okay.
So it's not standard practice for you to go out there and download all the cameras like that just for one escort?
No, because I wasn't getting paid to be at the office. I basically just did it because I was there at Villard. This is the only job I had. So I honestly went there every day because I had nothing to do at home. I have a dog business, but I had nothing to do at home, so I go to the office just to hang out.
Right.
And just to chill. Sometimes I brought my Xbox there. I played my games there. And he wasn't paying me for that. He paid 2 other guys $100 a week, but he told me he couldn't pay me because he's already paying these guys. And basically the Ken, the line guy, the captain, he told me when I left the company, he said that you need to stop working for free because Jay is going to take advantage of you and use you for free because now he sees that you're working for free, he's going to use you all the time.
Right.
So I won't even come to the office because I'm like, I'm not getting paid for any of this.
Right. Okay. So, with that said, how often did Jeremy ever call you in the middle of the night and say, I need you to come into the office and help me with the cameras or get ready?
He called me a couple of times. He called me the last weekend on the Saturday before I think it was before a charity event that we did. And he said, he called Steven first, and he said, hey, we need you to come in and clear out the body cameras. And then Steven called me, and I went to the office. I got the first one there because I left my garage clicker in one of the cars. And I went to the computer, and I was going to start doing it, and that's when Steven Legrand called me. And he told me, he said, listen, don't touch anything. He said, don't do anything because I feel like, that somebody's watching or the sheriff's office watching. I don't want you touching anything. And I was like, are you sure? He was like, well, Jay told me originally for me to do it, so I'm going to do it. And I told him, I said, are you sure? I said, because I know a lot more computers than you. I said, I will do it. And he said, no, don't worry, I'll do it. And I was on FaceTime with him the whole night. And when I finally got home, I asked him, I said, what are you doing? He was like, I'm trying to do it. And I said, okay, turn the camera and face over the screen. And it shows that it was deleting something, but the thing is, he was only deleting a folder, and it supposedly said that the folder was taking 16 hours to delete. And then he was like, why is it taking so long? I said, listen, you must be doing something wrong. I said, because if you're deleting a folder, the computer's supposed to know that as soon as you delete something, it deletes really quick. No matter how much stuff is in it, it's going to go to the recycling bin, and after you go to the recycling bin, that's when it'll take forever. So I told him, I said, listen, just cancel. I said, I was staying 16 hours. I said, that's not right. So while the whole process, maybe some items could have been deleted, and he canceled it, and then we was on FaceTime the whole night, and he left.
Okay, so has Jeremy ever called him and told him to go delete anything? Or to upload camera footage or anything?
Yeah, because like I said, he gets paid for that stuff, so most times he would upload stuff, and he would call me and be like, hey, how do I access these files? How do you plug it in? He wouldn't know either. But I know he would call him sometimes and say, hey, can you come in and
Hey, listen to me. Victor, listen to me. I know Steven's your friend, but don't sit here and try to help cover up something or help him out. You need to be completely honest, because I already know when I'm asking these questions, okay? So don't sit here and try to tell me that he does it on a normal basis and then has to call you to get you to walk him through it. Be honest with me. He doesn't know how to do it, and he doesn't normally do it, correct?
Yeah, he doesn't normally do it, but I do it mostly.
Okay.
All the time.
So basically, he didn't even know how to get in the building, correct?
He didn't know how to get in the building, and then that's when he called Joe Mantaranga and asked him for the code, because honestly, I didn't remember the code. And Joe Mantaranga gave him the code and told him, here's the code for the building. And then I told him, I said, well, if the keys are on the lockbox, then, you know, you can either go into the bay, and then he actually got in touch with Joe, the big chubby guy you guys were with? Yeah. So, you know, he didn't know actually how to stutter. So, yeah, that's the next name. So he didn't actually know how to get into the building. That's why he called Joe to ask for the password to the lockbox, because we put keys inside of there for the office.
Correct. So, and you frequent the office, that's why you knew how to get in, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. And so, you were monitoring the cameras. Have you ever downloaded anything or uploaded anything to your personal computer at home?
From the security camera.
Yes.
From the security cameras, there's a way that you can access the camera from home and watch it, but I've never accessed it from home. I have it on my phone on an app. And ever since when we had the old office, I had everything through an app, so I watched everything through the app. But when the new office, when we finally got everything up, I had the app, and it was me and Jeremy that had access to the app. But because if you look at the app, you can download videos, but the file's too big to download. So if you download a video and it downloads, depending on your service, it'll only download about 5 seconds of the video.
Okay. So only you and Jeremy had access to that.
That I'm aware of, yeah.
Okay.
It was the same username and password as the old username.
Right.
But the thing is, like I said, when you have the old camera systems on there and you delete that, the app is only recognizing that password and that user ID for the old camera. So you have to go to the admin account and scan the barcode in the back of the camera to give access to that new phone.
Okay. Okay. Here I'm gonna.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
Also for the body cameras, back when I used to work there, I would upload it onto my computer and put it onto a flash drive because I'm a computer person. I would upload it on my computer, put everything into a flash drive, and give it to him. Like, hey, listen, this is a 120 gigabyte flash drive, or this is my external hard drive, and I would give it to him. Like, listen, this is everything. Here it is.
What would he do with it?
Keep it and give it to his attorney, or keep it just for safekeeping. Because like the whole incident with the recent escort we did, he's like, listen, I want you to upload that, put that in a flash drive so I can give it to my attorney. And I bought, with my own money, I bought 5 flash drives, and I got a receipt for it. He gave me the money back, and then I basically put all the stuff that happened with the escort that day with the deputy, anything with Builder being at the office, and he told me to put everything onto a flash drive and give it to him, and give one to my attorney and one to Steven's attorney. And then the other ones, he took 2 other ones, and basically, I don't know what he did with them. I don't know if he gave them to someone else, but he kept them in his house. Do you still have a copy of those? My attorney has 1 copy. Okay. Yeah. But you didn't keep a copy? No, I didn't keep a copy.
Is there a copy on his computer?
On Jay's computer, I know on the computer you guys took, yeah, there's one there. There's a folder named Bidler. There's a folder named Off-Duty Deputy. There's a folder named Windermere. So they're all on the right-hand side of the screen that I put it on the right-hand side to keep it away from all his other personal documents.
Okay. All right, and we'll get into that in a second. So, all right, let's see. Here, I'm going to go off that topic of the computer stuff for a second. So let me back up. So you said that the one night that he called you, that was the night he was in jail, correct?
Yeah, he was in jail because he called Stephen Agron from the, I think it was that night. Was it that night?
It was. And I'm going to tell you how I know, because I'm going to share stuff with you. And so we know because we pulled the phone call records from the jail. So that's how I know that the two of you were sent over there to delete files.
Yeah.
And you weren't sent. Did you believe you were sent over there just to prepare for the next day, or did you believe you were being sent over there to maybe destroy it?
I already knew because, sorry to cut you off. I apologize. When Jay said to Stephen, and Stephen told me, when he said that we needed to clear stuff for the next day, I already knew what it was. Obviously, if he's in jail, he wants us to clear the storage from everything because he knew the sheriff's office was going to come to the office sooner or later. So
How did he know that?
I knew because obviously if he was in jail, then most of the time he would be coming to the office sooner or later.
Right. Okay. So that night, that was not a normal thing for him to call you and tell you to do that.
Yeah, it wasn't a normal thing because most of the times, if you look at my call records, he's called me. Oh, sorry, I just got to check battery light. He's called me in the middle of the night before, and asked me, "Oh, can you go to the office? Check on the cars and do something." But it was really rare that night that he called us from the jail and remembered his number, but didn't call me. Meanwhile, I'm the IT person, or called me, but he called him to go to the office. And that's when that's when I was like, oh, well, I forgot my garage clicker. I'm heading back to the office anyway.
Okay. All right. Have you and Stephen talked about this? And be honest with me. Don't lie to me. Have you and Stephen been talking about this?
About what?
Coming and talking to the sheriff's office.
Oh, yeah, a long time. Because obviously we've known each other. Well, 23. I would say 22 years since birth. We've been childhood friends since. Because my mom and his mom went to high school together. So everywhere he's been in a job, I've been in a job with him.
Okay, so what have you two been talking about?
Well, we were first talking about that we were really nervous because we thought that we would go, we would say something that Jay was doing or we were doing that we were doing that we didn't know it was illegal. So we were scared to come in because we thought we were going to jail.
Okay, so do you think, as many contacts as we have had, whether it be Sergeant Vidler or myself or other Orange County deputies, and we have told you that what you do is not legal, do you think that we have told you and your fellow employees on more than one occasion that it is understandable that what you're doing is illegal?
Yeah, so we knew, because like I said, we knew it was illegal, but the thing is, we were following what he said because he supposedly had court documents stating that, it was okay to run sirens. He said that a judge said it was okay to run opposite sides of traffic, that the lane over, it was okay to run sirens. The judge said that it was okay to have these lights, it was okay to speed, it was okay to break into traffic lights at a red light, at a green light. So I thought it was okay, and like I told Biller when I got detained that day at the park, I said, listen, I know a lot of deputies, and it's crazy. Most of the deputies that I know and lieutenants, they have told me about this company, and they told me to leave. They said, listen, it's not a good job. You need to leave this job. And obviously I didn't listen because it's the only job I can get at the time, and it paid my bills really quick. So a lot of the higher-ups, and I'm not trying to use this as some type of personal thing, but a lot of the higher-ups told me to quit the job long time ago, and I didn't listen because.
When you say higher up, who?
Well, when I went to the Norman Lewis thing, we had a Norman Lewis for the motor deputy at our neighborhood and Barton Park in Old Cheney. I forget one of the captains now with the sheriff's office, I forget his name. But he was there. A couple motor deputies were there. Big husky white guy, tall guy. he was there, and I told him I worked for Metro, and they were like, yeah, you should really leave that company. I was there with my parents in the neighborhood party, and all these deputies were telling me, and even John Mina, when he was an OPD chief, he told me, he's like, listen, he was like, I don't know you, but personally, you should leave this job. Deputy, or is it Chief Verlon, even he told me, because I told Bill first day I do law enforcement photography. That's all I focus on, photography. So most pictures on my page are with deputies. I take pictures with them, and when they find out I work for Metro, they're like, no, you should not be working there. They said if you have a path and you want to be a law enforcement officer one day, they said this is going to look bad on your record.
Okay, so you obviously know Sheriff Mina because you felt comfortable enough to approach him in the parking lot and talk to him. Tell me about that.
Yeah, that is. Jay told me to go to Internal Affairs and fight my ticket because he said he thought it was harassment because the fact that it was a traffic citation and they mentioned the whole case. So he said, he was like, if I was you, go to Internal Affairs and say, the deputy that pulled me over, Deputy Draco, so he told me, he was like, if I was you, go to Internal Affairs, make a complaint, and figure out what to do or contest it. So I saw Mina, and I was like, oh, hey. He was like, hey, I was like, you remember me, right? He was like, yeah, you're the photographer guy. And I was like, yeah. He was like, you got tickets? And I was like, yeah, because of the whole Metro State stuff. And he was like, oh. And I was like, yeah. I was like, you know what it is. And then he got inside his car, and then he was walking over to the Internal Affairs office.
And did he tell you anything?
No, he didn't. He said that he mumbled on his words. He was like, something, I feel bad or I feel sorry, something like that, he said. But it seemed like he was in a rush. My point was, mainly, I wasn't going to, mention it to him. That's why I was like, hey, you remember me? Because every time I see him, even at the parade, I always walk up to him, and I always say hi to him. I always ask for an updated picture that we can take a selfie together. And then that's when Jeremy said, listen, just make Internal Affairs request, speak to an agent, and file Internal Affairs against Fiddler.
Okay, so when you went to Internal Affairs, what happened?
I called over the phone, and I called them, and I spoke to them. I said, listen, my name is Victor Lopez. I work for Metro State. Jeremy, I didn't mention his name, but I said, I want to file a request against Fiddler of a complaint. They said, what's the complaint? I said, well, there was an incident, off-duty deputy. I feel like I was targeted. They said, well, we can't file the report because you might have pending charges against you. And I stated to them, I said, listen, I have the right to make a report, even though if I have pending charges or not. And he's like, that's not right. And then he was like, well, I'll let someone know, and we'll call you back. So he hanged up the phone, never called me back. I told Jeremy that day, I called him, and I was like, listen, they're telling me they can't take the request because supposedly I have pending charges against me. And he was like, well, that's not true. He's like, you need to call them back and speak to someone in charge because they have to file your report no matter what.
How would Jeremy know that you don't have charges?
I don't know that well. I told folks when Miller called me that day, the first time I was driving, and I told Miller, that's when I was like, oh, what happens if I don't be part of it? He's like, well, just to let you know, we have charges against you. And I told Miller, I was like, well, listen, let me decide. And that day I was actually going to work that day, and I told Jeremy, I was like, well, listen, Miller just called me stating that if I don't go in and talk, he wants me to become a witness or defendant. If I don't go in and talk, they're going to have charges against me. He's like, oh, that's all BS, because if they would have had charges, they would have got you the same day as me.
Let me just clarify something, John. The day in question of the phone call would have been on or about September 16th, correct? And shortly after the blue jacket incident.
Yeah.
Okay. And just clarifying for date or for record.
I think I have a voicemail.
Okay.
Ramsey called me.
Yeah.
Someone else called me.
Right. John, I got a question. Let me ask you a question. What is Jeremy to accomplish by filing all these professional standards complaints?
He said that he's going to file civil lawsuit against the sheriff's office. And he said that supposedly they give you some type of letter, the sheriff's office saying that we apologize. And he said that he was going to go to Tallahassee and have this letter sent out to all the departments. He'd be like, listen, if you come after me, we're going to sue all you guys. Even though if you got $1, he's going to hang the dollar up on the thing, really funny, but he's just going to hang it up on the poster and send it to every department. And listen, if you mess with me and our company, we're going to come after you guys with civil lawsuits.
As far as that goes, want to clarify a couple things that was said. As far as the lawsuit, are you aware? Showing the documentation, anything to show you. He keeps telling you guys and other people that he's a state certified agent. He never showed me. Who's certified?
No, I don't. He always told me by the word of mouth that he's a state certified agency, but he never showed us documentation. I always look at Sunbiz and it's LLC,
and that Sunbiz was created in February.
Yeah, I think so. And it's under it's under someone else's name on the different address of their home. I think that's his mom's address.
That's something that he's not even. So as far as any certifications of actually being a real company, like for example, I'm going to give you an example. If you go into any business anywhere in Orange County, any business, if they're a legitimate business, they'll have posted on their wall occupational license.
Yeah, a picture of him and everything. Yeah.
Well, anything to do with their company, showing that it's a legitimate company. Is any of that ever posted? No. Have you ever seen anything posted?
Everything in his office is all his memorabilia. I've always asked him, do you have proof saying that everything we're doing is legal? Oh, well, I have stuff from the judges. But when we actually see it, obviously he says, when we get back to the office, we get
Let me clarify something that we said to Jeremy for you, because he uses those same lines to us all the time, to everybody. As a former narcotics agent, and I use this analogy all the time, we'll put charges on somebody, we'll arrest them, and then for whatever reason, the case gets dismissed. Okay, that doesn't mean the judge is telling that drug dealer, whatever, that you can now sell drugs because I dismissed your case. And I think that's the biggest the confusion that Jeremy is having, that when a ticket is beat in court or a ticket is dismissed in court, he's assuming that that's the judge or the hearing officer telling him that it's okay to do what you're doing.
He told me that the other day.
Right. So I just want to put that on record to give you, when he tells you guys that stuff, that's the reason.
Yeah, that's what I believe, that, I've gotten over 100 tickets and everything gets dismissed. He's like, everything the sheriff's office is giving me tickets for, it's all BS. He's like, they're just messing with me.
But you've never seen any documentation whatsoever as far as a business license,
I've seen the ambulance stuff, that's it. The ambulance stuff, I've seen that. I've seen lease agreements when we had the new office on Lee Road. I've seen that, but I've never seen actual documentation stating that the business is legal to do these things.
Do you have access to his computer and email?
I have access to his computers, and his email is only on obviously when you go to the computer, you log in. His Gmail's already logged in.
His Gmail. Okay,
yeah, everything's logged in.
Have you seen any bills or anything from an insurance company? Everything. Okay.
Yeah.
So as far as do you know if he has even any liability certificate, any insurance?
I know he told us we had. We would make jokes. Do we have benefits of the job? No. Do we have workers' comp? No. Every time we would make a joke of we're going to sue you, because you start laughing, and you go, you can't sue me. And I'm like, okay. But I've never seen any documents. I know we signed documents for the 1099, W-4s, all that. And he had us sign, but honestly, when we signed a inventory sheet of what we have, I'll sign it. I never gave it to him because I said, I'm not.
Okay. Did he ever? The 4 years you're working for him, has he ever given you a 1099 form for taxes?
I know he gave me some form that asked me for my social security number and all that.
But what I'm saying is at the end of your, for example, I'll give you an example. Before our off-duty checks went through the sheriff's office and we worked off-duty for Universal or House of Blues or whatever, we were a 1099 employee.
Oh, okay.
All right. So at the end of the year, I would receive a 1099 form
from the House of Blues
saying that you worked and we paid you this amount that you have to claim on your taxes. And has he ever given you money in the 4 years?
I never got any of that stuff in the mail.
Okay. Now, we were talking about workers' comp now. Has any employee ever been hurt on the job and he told them that they're on their own?
Lots of times.
Yeah.
Tell me. One guy named Groove, I don't know his real name, but Groover they call him. Actually, no, his name is Haas, something Haas. But he got hit one time on 436 over the overpass, and a car hit him, and the driver of the car fled, and I guess one of the officers, I don't remember, it was maybe about 2.5 years ago, one of the officers chased him, but after he went into the field, they called PD. He went to the hospital, his bill was almost $10,000. was like, and he was hurt everywhere. He was on the floor bleeding. EMS picked him up. The bill was $10,000. Jay said, I'm not paying for it. The Gruber kept his uniform and didn't return it. Because he said, I'm not getting this, so I get my last paycheck, or you pay my bills. And supposedly Jay told us that later on he would pay for the bill, supposedly, but I've never seen proof of it. But I know a lot of the motor officers, they have got hit, and they don't pay. Unless, like I said, unless it's Ken, it's Andrew, it's Alan, or it's, back then it was Strike. If it was those four guys, those the main guys, the company over, he would cover the bills like nothing. But I've never got hit. I've never, you're like, go ahead, John.
All right, hey, Victor.
Yeah.
Have you ever met Mike?
Bill showed me a picture, and now that I know it was him, I always heard of him. And now that the guy does look familiar, we met him at the grand opening when at the old office on OBT and Shader when we had all the ambulance there. I actually met him one time, but I didn't know who he was. Jay just said that this is the guy that's helping us with the ambulance business, and he also mentioned Dr. Rivera, and he works for I forget what company it is, but he mentioned Dr. Rivera and Mike. These are the two guys that are helping us open up this business. But that was, 2.5 years ago, 2 years ago, and that's when Miller showed me the picture today. I was like, oh, that's the guy from the grand opening. But I never knew who he was. And I looked online, Mike attorney, Mike lawyer, but I could never find anything about who this Mike guy was. So today,
right.
I know who he is. But I met him that day at the grand opening.
Have you ever seen where Jeremy makes any kind of payments to him or anybody else?
I only seen payments to Dr. Rivera where Dr. Rivera asked to have lights installed in his vehicle, and Dr. Rivera pays Jeremy in a check to put lights in his car. But anything towards the ambulance, I've never seen payments given. I've seen receipts of him making payments to the insurance company. It's like $17,000 a month just to have insurance for ambulances.
Hey, John, just for the record, I'm going to show him a picture so he can confirm that we're talking about the same person.
Okay.
Oh yeah, it's him right there. Yeah, we met him at the charity event. He drives one of the motorcycle trucks. Okay, with the light.
Hey, John, just for the record, I showed him a picture of Michael Breen's law firm, and where there's pictures of Michael Breen standing in a suit coat, and then he's standing in front of it looks like an F-250 with lights on.
Correct. And just so you know, Victor, I do have a picture of you standing with him as well. Do you recall ever taking a picture with him?
Well, like I said, not that I knew his name, but or knew who. Obviously I knew his name, but I never. That was maybe 2.5 years ago, 2 years ago, a year and a half. But I knew who Mike was, but I never remembered what he looked like.
Okay.
I'm being completely honest.
All right, I believe you. All right, and so who? Go ahead.
Hey, go ahead. I was just going to ask a couple questions so you can get your thinking. I'm going to go off the subject a little bit, dealing with the security side of Metro State. In-house security, yeah.
We've done a lot of things like that.
Okay. So as far as the security side of Metro State, obviously we know that Jeremy has been hired by Wall Street funeral homes and different places to perform security services. Are you aware that Jeremy Dewitte is not a security company?
I know that. Actually, I looked at his B&G for the company, and everything's expired or under review.
Well, he's a convicted felon. So he can't. He can't. Right. He can't get one. With that said, how many times have you? Again, just being honest. I can't go back.
Yeah, I know.
How many times have you performed security services for him in any of these places?
A lot. I would say a lot of times since I've been with the company. But I've worked in-house security before for a hotel, and I was contracted with a hotel, and I know the difference between being contracted and not being contracted. So obviously, if I'm contracted, like I worked at the hotel, I filled out a 1099, I filled out all that. With Jeremy, I didn't. So when I asked him, I said, when we used to work at Woodlawn, maybe a year and a half to 2 years, I was like, well, okay, what am I doing, Ken? He's like, oh, if you're going to ask questions, I'm not going to have you work. I'm like, well, what do you mean? He's like, listen, dog, just stay in the car, drive around. If you see someone, walk up to them, ask them what they're doing here. And I'm like, yeah, but it's a cemetery. Anyone's allowed to come. He's like, yeah, but if they look very out of place, ask them. And if they say we're not here to see a loved one, ask them to leave. And if you have any problems, call the sheriff's office. Obviously, I drove around. I had my takedown light. This was 2 years ago when I had the light bar charger a long time ago, our old one. And I drove around the cemetery. I'm not gonna lie. Most of the time I napped a little tiny bit. But it was 8 hours, and I drove around with my takedown light. That was on Halloween, and my girlfriend came to visit me. She was in her costume, and she came and we hanged out. We ate food. But there was only one guy, and he was smoking weed, and I didn't say nothing to him because he was a big, huskier black guy, and I didn't say nothing to him. I stood in the car. I called Jay. I said, listen, Jay, I said, there's a guy here. He's smoking weed. He was like, well, call the sheriff's office. I said, are you sure? That's because I called the sheriff's office. Obviously, the sheriff's office is going to say, we're not security. What are we doing here? So I didn't call, and I kept on driving. So, like I said, I've worked a lot of times for him doing this supposedly in-house security because he says it's not illegal because we're contracted by them. And I remember when he worked at Wall Street, he spoke to the owner of Wall Street. He's like, listen, we can't do security, but we can do in-house. And then the lady was like, oh, well, we can have you wear our T-shirts. And he's like, no, we can't do that. He said, we're a B-Life agency, so we have to wear our company shirts. He says, we're not putting on your Wall Street security shirts because we're not security. And I always thought it was okay because OPD saw us there multiple times, patting people down. Sometimes Jay and the other guys, they've got into fights with security, with the drunk people. Obviously, I'm not going to get in a fight with nobody. I just stood there and patted people down. But I thought it was okay because PD saw me in a Metro State uniform with my duty belt, but everything I had on was less lethal. Like I had my baton, I had handcuffs, I had a pepper spray gun at that time. It was a little, like a mace gun. It had an orange tip and it sprayed out mace. And OPD asked me, they said, what is this? And I said, it's a mace gun. And Jeremy walked up to me and said, what's the problem? I said, they're asking me what this is. And they pulled it out, they looked at it, and they was like, oh my God, this is really a pepper spray gun. And they looked at it, they said, okay, you're fine. And the rest of the night, we were okay.
Did you have a taser on too?
No, I didn't have a taser. Yeah, I merely had the pepper spray. There was a little orange device with a black handle, and you put a pepper spray can.
Sort of like the day that in Blue Jacket when I
like that. Which this one was different. This one was a little more or less lethal.
Now, in your uniform, you said, was it the Metro State? What color shirt was it?
This one, back then when I was working the Wall Street, I had the gray shirt. I had my navy blue BDUs, my Under Armour boots, and then my duty belt.
And your gray shirt had a screen printed badge.
Yes, screen printed badge, and then Metro State. Well, back then we had just the screen printed badge and motor unit, and then that's when he got a Metro State protection officer.
Why you did mention that word, protection? I know a lot of your uniforms say protection. Matter of fact, the day that
public safety officer.
Public safety officer.
I was aware that it was okay to wear.
Yeah, sorry. When the word protection, what is the synonym of protection? In other words, what is another word for protection? It's security.
Yeah, something like that, yeah. Because I see a lot of security agencies, public safety officers, a lot of security companies have public safety officer or protection officer, or protection guard,
anything to do with protection.
Yeah.
All right, so he's been doing this for several years. I know at Woodlawn Cemetery over in Augusta or Ocoee area. Have you ever done any service?
I've only did Woodlawn, which like I said was a couple Halloweens ago. I and my girlfriend. I've done the mosses before. I'm sitting in front of the moss, sitting in the car, not making contact with anyone. And like I said, always he awares of that parking. I said what? Parking. They're a parking detail. So he said if Orange County comes or anything, it's parking. We're there in the parking lot. We're on private property.
Yeah.
So they can't say anything because we're
so
private.
When he says it's a parking lot detail, that's basically in case law enforcement.
Comes.
Let me ask you this: at any time when you did those type of security details, did you park a car?
No. I know. Well, I've helped with the other. If I got the mosque, we do the parking details. Even though it's not, I'll stay in the car. And he's like, and even the mosque people, they ask me, they said, "What do you carry?" I'm like, "It's a pepper ball gun." And he's like, "Does it shoot bullets?" And I'm like, "No, it's not." And they're like, "Oh, we're gonna have to contact Jay because we were aware that you guys had guns."
They want a gun.
So when my cousin even told me, he said, if something happens, you need to just drive off.
Yeah.
He said, because if they start shooting, you're going to be dead. So a lot of the mobsters, they thought that we had guns. And I always told them that it was a pepper ball gun. Even like the day we did the charity arrest for the airport with the guys from Benghazi. We did those, and one of the Benghazi guys was like, "Oh, is that a gun?" And I was like, "No, it's a pepper ball." And Jay was like, "No. He's the kid. It's a gun on him." And I was like, "Not." I was like, "This guy knows what a gun is." Yeah, he knows what guns are.
Wow. All right, so then I guess this year, go to Chapel Hill Cemetery. Back in July, they hired Metro State to do the chapel over on the east side, funeral home, Chapel Hill Cemetery. Yeah. They hired back in July Metro State to do a protection service for a funeral with a girl named. Anyway, she was involved. She was shot and bled low, and they were expecting a lot of trouble.
Yeah.
Were you on that security team?
No, I did one in which one?
Michelle and back out July 13th.
Definitely on Chapel Hill, but I did one out of Baldwin one a while ago, and in Altamont, the one where the PD is like in a little neighborhood. Yeah. I did one there where the uncle was supposedly had a gun and was supposedly going to come over, and Jay had me sit at the actual house, and I was in the Durango back then, and I sat in the house and I sat there, and I was the only unit working that day, and the family ended up coming to the house that day, and honestly I was asleep because she told me I fell asleep, and I still keep in contact with her. Her name is Caitlin something. I have her on Facebook, but she told me that the uncle did come to the cemetery, but you weren't there. And he worded that as a high risk protection funeral.
Oh wow!
So, and back then I had the orange pepper spray gun, and a duty belt, and obviously a gray shirt. And I sat in the car in front of the driveway.
Okay. Let's move forward to this past Halloween. Just a couple weeks ago. I know when I went out there November 1st, I saw you in the F-250. Yeah. You were patrolling the grave sites with the lights on and everything. Who sent you out there?
Jeremy texted me, or I think he called me and said either you work it or Andrew work it. Andrew Ross, and I was like, well, I'll work it. I was like, I'm not doing anything that night. I said, what do you want me to wear? He said, wear anything you want. So I wore my shorts, obviously, my Under Armour shirt, my Nike hat, and I didn't bring no Z-Bows. I knew what was going on. And he alerted me that it was a parking detail. So obviously when I first got there...
Just to clarify, when he says it's a parking detail, what's he actually referring to?
He said that he basically wanted us to drive around and make sure kids weren't damaging the tombstones because it's Halloween.
Right, and why did he tell you it's a parking detail?
Obviously it's security. Just see if I can tell us that.
Right, but he tells you it's a parking detail for what reason?
Oh, so for obviously the sheriff's office. The sheriff's office comes and, you tell them it's parking. But obviously the sheriff's office not dumb. They know. So I got there. I made contact with a guy named Trevor, and I told him, I said, listen, Connie said we're here, and he was like, well, Connie's on vacation, and I was like, and he was like, I wasn't aware, and I said, well, this is what my boss is Jeremy telling me. He's telling me that Connie said we're here, and he said, well, what are you here for? I said, basically, when my boss is saying we're here to make sure that the kids are not damaging the tombstone because it's the Day of the Living Dead, some event. And basically, I'm going to either be sitting here or I'm going to drive around with my takedown lights. And obviously, I turned on my traffic advisory sometimes, turned on my lights, but he said if you feel like there's someone there, because the spotlight didn't work on the car, the only takedown that worked was the front one, the side one didn't work. So he said if you see someone, flip your lights on and flip them off. Just to see, so that you're aware of the presence. They're aware of some type of presence there. So I drove around for a little bit. I went to a building, sat there for a little bit. I was on FaceTime with my best friend from Texas, and I showed him where I was at. I even took a picture in the back of the tree. I slept there for maybe about 10 minutes. Drove around a little more. Then that's when I sat at the front gate, second gate, backed in, and watched my Netflix. And I went to Wawa, got to get some food, and I sat there maybe about 3 hours, and I flipped on my rear lights every time I saw anybody from the funeral, just so they knew I wasn't sleeping. So I would flip it on just to let them know, hey, I'm still awake.
And confirming your hours that day were 7 o'clock in the evening to 1 o'clock in the morning?
Yeah, I left a little bit earlier.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. And who you for that?
I never got paid for that at all. 'Cause Jeremy said he never got paid yet. He said he never got the check. And then I got paid.
I showed you the check that.
No, obviously I got paid.
Oh, you did.
I got paid like 3 weeks later because everything that was going on, he fully said he was a negative $3,000 in his bank account. So he had no money to pay him, but which we never, so to this day, I was supposed to get paid $600 in total. I only got paid half of that. And half of that's like, what, $300? But he said, no, I can only give you $270. And I was like, yeah, that's not half though. And he's like, well, this is all I can afford. And he said, well, and he paid me on Saturday. He said, listen, don't cash your check until Monday or Tuesday. I was like, well, why not? He's like, well, because I don't know if I'm going to have enough money by then. So obviously I cashed it on Monday. I texted him. I said, do you have money in your account? He's like, I just deposit check, but don't cash it. I cashed it anywhere. I said, yeah, you can't tell me I can't cash my check. He still owes me money to this day, and half that money is from that detail.
Wow. Sorry about that.
So what you were saying?
Please hold. Hello, this is a free call from
me.
An inmate at the Orange County Corrections. To accept this call is from a correction facility and is subject to monitoring and recording.
Thank you for using Global Tellink.
Hey.
Listen, where's your phone? Because I just checked the GPS and it says it's at your office now.
They're at my office. Oh my God, they're at my office.